Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, I'm going to let you know about tonight's author. Mike Jesus is available on YouTube. So Mike Jesus also has his own series on YouTube of his own work. If you like this story that you're hearing today, you can hear a lot more of it on his channel that'll be in the link in the description down below, and on that little eye you'll find in the top corner of your screen. This is only one part of a full series. If you want to hear the whole 4-hour thing, I strongly suggest you check out his channel and give it a subscription. And now, on to tonight's story. The first time I met Lola was during a night out in university. I was drunkenly making my way back home with a poorly structured kebab, and she followed me. She was no bigger than my fist. It looked as if she'd been born inside of a drainage pipe. Yet, despite her size, she kept pace. She followed me all the way back to my dorm, eating up the trail of meat and salad that I left in my wake, all while bravely meowing into the night. I never intended to keep her. Being drunk, I could scarcely plan past the next couple of hours. That night, however, I knew that Lola wasn't going to spend the night sleeping on the street. The kitten was more than willing to hide in the pouch of my hoodie to get past the security guard. The hangover in the morning was brutal, but Lola's purring made it bearable. Lola spent the rest of the year being the worst-kept secret in my student dorms, and then the next 3 years being the cuddly mascot of the flat I rented with my classmates. I got my degree and qualifications and went to become an IB-certified biology teacher. I'd hop around the international school circuit on 3-year contracts, and even though the culture and the continents changed, Lola remained a steady constant through my life. Didn't matter if it was hot or cold, or if the apartments were clean or covered in geckos. Lola was happy as long as there was someone to scratch behind the ears. A lot of the spots where I taught provided pretty steep hazard pay, and I'd found myself in situations which I'd rather have avoided, but Lola was the one constant in my years of traveling. She was a little piece of home I got to carry around. But nothing lasts forever, though. After 15 years of keeping me company, much of Lola's body had given out. She was blind in one eye and limp in one paw. Much of her day consisted of snoring in my lap. She'd still meow with the same pitch of the kebab-hungry kitten, but it was clear that Lola's time was running out. What made matters worse was that my 3-year contract was about to run out as well. After 3 years of teaching in the International School of Islamabad, I was set to start a 3-year stint in Prague. The day of flights and layovers would surely kill Lola. I couldn't bear the idea of having her final moments in the cargo hold of a plane. The thought of leaving her behind, however, that was just as bad. I mean, Lola was old, confused. I hated the idea of her going into the night without my company. Moving across the continent is hectic enough, but as the days counted down to my departure, all I could think about was the question of Lola. I had colleagues who offered to adopt her, and it was still possible to buy her a ticket, but each day I put off that decision. I lost sleep worrying over what would happen to my cat. I guess she felt it somehow. 3 days before my flight, after a night of complications, Lola eased my burden. She died. She died, and I held her paw, and I felt the last thud of her life leave her. At the vet's office, they offered to dispose of her body, but I declined. Instead, I had Lola packed into a little airtight plastic bag, and I took her home with me. I'd take her with me to Prague, and I'd get her cremated there. She could keep traveling with me. Turns out, however, that most conventional airlines aren't okay with transporting last-minute dead animals. So my final 2 days in Islamabad were spent on the phone with every single airline that connect back to Prague. I repeated the story of her death over and over and over again until it completely lost all meaning. No dice. See, no airline would transport her. It started to seem like I'd have to leave my Lola behind in shrink wrap. But then, on the 25th page of Google, I found a company that was willing to transport Lola. They had no customer service number, nor could I find any mention of them on the internet besides their website, but their FAQ was clear. Can I transport dead animals on Morana Air flights? Yes. An option to purchase a pet ticket popped up. I didn't have much of a choice. Even though the cat was dead, she still had to be transported inside of an animal carrier. When I dropped off Lola at the cargo depot, the airport guards seemed really uncomfortable, but aside from that, everything else went smoothly. I took my flight to London a few hours later, and I was in Prague by sunrise the next day. Took a couple of calls, but eventually I found a pet cremation place that spoke English, and they understood my situation. Lola was due to arrive the following afternoon, and the cremation place wasn't far from the airport, so it started to feel like everything was figured out. The problem didn't start until I picked up Lola from the airport. The smell was the first thing I noticed. Even from the hallway, I could smell the undeniable stench of rot. It didn't occur to me that the smell could be tied to Lola's body. It wasn't until I got to the pickup point that I realized something was terribly wrong. The airport worker was young and uncomfortable. First thing she said when she saw me was, "We tried giving her a bath, but it didn't help." The words scarcely connected to my brain before the carrier box was brought out. Two eyes stared at me from inside the box, but I scarcely recognized them. The dark green plastic packaging Lola was wrapped up in lay shredded in the corner of the cage. The cat I was looking at looked like a carbon copy of Lola, but I didn't recognize it. The eyes were different. I stood there in absolute shock, staring at the living cat in the box. I knew I had to say something to the attendant, but no words came to me. I remained awestruck by the sight inside the box until the cat broke me out of my spell. With a large meow, the creature moaned in a voice that was low with exhaustion. I tried explaining to the attendant that this wasn't my cat. That my cat was dead, yet she just nervously laughed. But I kept on insisting that what arrived in that box was not what was sent. She called her supervisor. The supervisor also nervously laughed for a bit, and then he said that my issue was with the airline. I was told to contact their customer service line. I was also asked to leave the premises with my pet. Throughout the whole argument, through the whole bus ride back home, the cat kept on meowing from inside the box. It sounded nothing like Lola. It sounded like some horrid demon being exorcised and yelled no. The creature meowed through the whole bus ride back, and everyone bunched up by the driver to escape the smell. When I let the cat out of the box in my apartment, it moved with a terrible swiftness. Lola calculated each step she took, but the creature rushed through the room like a guided missile. Once it scanned the room, it jumped atop my kitchen counter, stared into my soul, and proceeded to howl. Meow. I opened all the windows in the apartment and immediately set to finding the contact number for Morana Air customer support. As hard as I tried, however, I couldn't find any trace of them. Not online or anything, though. The whole way through my fruitless search, the cat kept meowing, trying to ignore the entire existence of the creature at first, but then it occurred to me that it might just be hungry. When the first couple of Google pages didn't return any results, I grabbed my coat and went downstairs to buy the cat some food. Getting out into the corner store helped me escape the terrible smell, but my clothes still stank like I rolled in a garbage heap. When I returned back to the apartment, I gagged. The smell had soaked into everything I owned. It won't eat. It won't drink. All the cat does is sit and stare and moan in those horrid low tones. It looks like my Lola, but I know better. I know that Lola drifted off to sleep on a chemical cocktail thousands of miles away. Whatever is sitting in front of me isn't her. It might be using her body, but it isn't her. The email confirmation about Lola's ticket is linked to an email address that's a mix of random letters and numbers. My browser history shows no signs of the Morana Air, and the people at the airport keep on hanging up on me. I don't know what to do. And that's why I came here to this sleepless corner of the internet. If anyone knows what to do with this creature, if anyone has a shred of insight about how this could have happened, please reach out. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thanks so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. Quick reminder, I am also a narrator over at Chilling. If you guys like the stories that you're listening to here, then I'm sure you'll like the stories that you can listen to over at Chilling, because they're almost the same thing. I'm still narrating them, but you can select your own background music or background sounds, and you can select a whole mess of other narrators, such as Autumn Ivy, Swamp Dweller, and a bunch of my other friends. If you guys are interested in checking out Chilling app, starting up with a free trial, you can use the link in the description down below, or you can head over to thechillingapp.com and also use those free trials to win prizes from their giveaways. And as always, I would love to give a big thank you to everyone who's supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are the real MVPs. You guys keep things going, especially while things have been nuts for me over the past couple of months, and things have been getting crazier and crazier as time goes on. You guys are the ones who are keeping me sane, and I mean that with all sincerity, that you guys have helped me immensely. So, in my personal life and my professional life, I want to give a very big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Burnett, Kraus, LaQueda, Canizales, MrCreepyPasta, PebisPleaser, Joseph Calarrudo, BuddhaBee, Dante, Kinkade, Foxhound 803, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, Bastion, Beefcake, Jeff the Killer's Cultist, Love You M, INSANITYGamerX, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, Kearns, himbojerry, SamaHigh, CrusaderChocobo, Atomaurus, Captain Scurvy, Estadine, Braden Morris, Nate Cull, Our Minsect Time, Angelus, Seclude, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier and Cheyenne, 6 Gay Rats in a Trench Coat, Turtleman, Cryolinian, Lord Life's Best, Goring Trimagazine, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limshock, Dirk Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Shelly J, Fikamel, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, William King, Sashi Suzaku, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Mog, Kiwi the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Nico Kayo, The Ginger Bros, and Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. To everyone on this list, everyone in the description, and of course anyone who could support even just $1, thank you all so much for making my life significantly easier with this. And if you guys would like to be able to join any of the names that you see here or down there or anything at all, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And with that, I wish you all a very, very pleasant night and sweet dreams.